Air travel is too important, too strategic to any country to let it go out of business. We just can't. At the same time, it offends my sense of justice so greatly, just as it did in the aftermath of the great financial crisis when the banks were bailed out and the CEOs of these banks paid really no penalty for their egregious behavior. What I see happening today is going to be a repeat of that.
As the coronavirus crisis tightens its grip, core American industries find themselves on the brink of collapse.
The airline industry alone seeking a $50 billion bailout. But should these companies get relief with no strings attached?
Airlines went from full planes to slashing capacity by as much as 70%. Some predict they could be bankrupt by the summer. And when it comes to bailouts,
the airlines would be number one if you look at what's going on.
But is this partly a problem of their own making? As a hedge fund owner and a former political science professor at NYU and SMU, Hunt has studied the intersection of markets and policy for decades.
Now, were you able to actually look at the airline industry in particular to see how many of these companies were buying back shares at what level and what that looked like for the executive compensation?
So you've got this, again, this, I'll call it unholy trinity, right? More debt, more stock buybacks, more stock-based compensation for senior management. It all goes together, and it all creates hollowed out companies that are so much weaker when they face a crisis like these companies are facing now.
Over the last decade or so, executives of large public companies like Delta, American, United, and Southwest Airlines, have increasingly received a huge percentage of their compensation in shares of their company's stock. This is referred to as stock-based compensation. Another growing trend, increasingly, companies are using their extra cash to buy back shares of their own stock instead of reinvesting it into the company. This boosts the price of the shares on the market and increases the value of the shares company executives hold. If companies spend too much money buying back shares, though, they don't have a rainy day fund when a crisis hits.
Each of these companies, it's clear, made a conscious decision in 2014, going into 2014, that they would change what they do with their money. When you look at the group as a total, when you add up the free cash flow for these four airlines over the 6 years, 2014 through 2019, the four airlines had a grand total of $37 billion in free cash flow. They have a total of more than $42 billion in stock buybacks. So this has been a very conscious decision by the airlines. In my view, it's a decision that was made at least with an eye towards masking their own compensation in the form of stock-based compensation. My strong belief is that the reason, or a big reason, why company managements have taken these risky actions is to allow the enrichment of themselves. And that's what I've got a big problem with. We've got a global crisis, right? Just like the last global crisis, these things come around every 10 years or so. And instead of planning for that, instead of making decisions that would allow them to weather that, they've run their business in such a way as to reward themselves and to put the risk of their decisions, if it all goes wrong, which it is now, put the risk of that on the shareholders, the employees, and the country.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.